Idriss Deby Itno was born on 18 June, 1952. He was a Chadian political leader and military officeholder who was the president of Chad from 1990 until his death by insurgent forces. This happened when he was leading troops on the front in 2021. Deby was married several times and had at least a dozen children. He married Hinda, 1977, who was reputed for her beauty, in September 2005. This marriage attracted much attention in Chad, and due to tribal affiliations it was seen by many as a strategic means for Deby to bolster his support while under pressure from rebels. Hinda is a member of the civil cabinet of the presidency, serving as special secretary. On July 2, 2007, Deby's son, Brahim, was found dead aged 27 in the parking garage of his apartment near Paris. According to the autopsy report, he had likely been asphyxiated by white powder from a fire extinguisher. A murder inquiry was launched by the French police. Brahim had been sacked as presidential advisor the year before, after being convicted of possessing drugs and weapons. Blogger Michael Gebla attributes the defection of many Chadian government leaders to their indignation over Brahim's conduct. He is at the root of all the frustration. He used to slap government ministers and senior officials. Deby was born on June 18, 1952, in the village of Bordoba, approximately 190 kilometers from Fada in northern Chad. His father was a poor herder, who belongs to the Bidayat clan of the Zagawa community. After attending the Quranic school in time, Deby studied at the École Française in Fada and at the Franco-Arab school, Lycée Franco-Arabe, in Abèche. He also attended the Lycée Jacques Moudina in Bonger and held a bachelor's degree in science. After finishing school, he entered the officers' school in N'Djamena. From there he was sent to France for training, returning to Chad in 1976 with a professional pilot certificate. He remained loyal to the army and President Félix Malem even after Chad's central authority crumbled in 1979. He returned from France in February 1979 and found Chad had become a battleground for many armed groups. Deby tied his fortunes to those of Hissène Habre, one of the chief Chadian warlords. A year after Habre became president in 1982, Deby was made commander-in-chief of the army. He distinguished himself in 1984 by destroying pro-Libyan forces in eastern Chad. In 1985, Habre sent him to Paris to follow a course at the École de Guerre, and upon his return in 1986, he was made chief military advisor to the president. In 1987, he confronted Libyan forces on the field, with the help of France in the so-called Toyota War, adopting tactics that inflicted heavy losses on enemy forces. During the war, he also led a raid on Madan al-Sara Air Base in Kufra, in Libyan territory. A rift emerged on April 1, 1989 between Habre and Deby over the increasing power of the Presidential Guard. According to Human Rights Watch, Habre was found responsible for widespread political killings, systematic torture, and thousands of arbitrary arrests, as well as ethnic purges. This was when it was perceived that group leaders could pose a threat to his rule, including many of Deby's Zagawa ethnic group who supported the government. Increasingly paranoid, Habre accused Deby, Minister of the Interior of Mohamed Itno, and Commander-in-Chief of the Chadian Army Hassan Jamis of preparing a coup d'état. Deby fled first to Darfur, then to Libya, where he was welcomed by Muammar Gaddafi in Tripoli. Itno and Jamis were arrested and killed. Since all three were ethnic Zagawa, Habre started a targeted campaign against the group which saw hundreds seized, tortured, and imprisoned. Dozens died in detention or were summarily executed. In 2016, Habre was convicted of war crimes by a specially created international tribunal in Senegal. Deby gave the Libyans detailed information about CIA operations in Chad. Gaddafi offered Deby military aid to seize power in Chad in exchange for Libyan prisoners of war. Deby relocated to Sudan in 1989 and formed the Patriotic Salvation Movement, an insurgent group, supported by Libya and Sudan, which started operations against Habre. Later on December 2, 1990, Deby's troops marched unopposed into N'Djamena in a successful coup, ousting Habre. Idriss Déby assumed Chad's presidency in 1991. He was subsequently re-elected every 5 years up until the time of his death. In the 1990s, after 3 months of the provisional government, on February 28, 1991, a charter was approved for Chad with Déby as president. During the following 2 years, Déby faced a series of coup attempts as government forces clashed with pro-Halba rebel groups, such as the Movement for Democracy and Development, MDD. In the 2000s, Déby was re-elected in the May 2001 presidential election by winning in the first round with 63.17% of the vote according to official results. A civil war between Christians and Muslims erupted in 2005 accompanied by tensions with Sudan. An attempted coup d'état involving the shooting down of Déby's plane was foiled in March 2006. In the 2010s, on April 25, 2011, Déby was re-elected for a fourth term with 88.7% of the vote and reappointed Emmanuel Nadinger as Prime Minister. Because of Chad's strategic position in West Africa, Déby sent troops or played a key mediating role in tackling multiple regional crises, such as Darfur, the Central African Republic, CAR, Mali, as well as the fight against Boko Haram. In the 2020s, Déby signed a bill abolishing capital punishment in 2020. The firing squad had last been used on terrorists in 2015. In February 2021, Déby announced Chad would send 1,200 soldiers alongside French troops to the Sahel border between Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, to combat al-Qaeda-linked groups. In the 2021 presidential election, Déby won his sixth term as president. In February earlier in the same year, Chadian security forces had attempted to arrest leader of the opposition Yahya Dilla Jeru, with Jeru claiming 5 members of his family were killed during this attempt, and the government instead reporting 3 were killed. Most political opponents had withdrawn from the election, urging a boycott, alleging attacks and excessive use of force by security forces during anti-government protests. Instead of giving a victory speech, Déby went to visit the Chadian soldiers on the front lines fighting the northern rebel incursion by the Front for Change and Concord in Chad. He was said to have been mortally wounded in the village of Mele, near the town of Noku on Sunday 18th of April, and was flown to the capital, where he died on 20th of April. According to an army spokesperson, Déby succumbed to injuries resulting from gunshots on April 19, 2021 while commanding his army against rebels in the north of Chad during the Northern Chad Offensive, at the age of 68. According to a rebel spokesperson, he was mortally wounded in the village of Mele, near the town of Noku, before being taken to the capital, where he died. The Chadian parliament was dissolved upon his death and a transitional military council was formed in its place with his son Mohamed Déby Itno as chairman. In addition to the parliament, the government of Chad was dissolved as well. Déby's funeral is due to take place on April 23, 2021.